Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Generation X, we're technically at that point where we're just trying to wrap up our coverage over all the different X titles that lead into the Onslaught crossover that we're going to cover very soon on the channel. But with that being said, when it comes to Generation X, today's storyline does take place in issue number 12, 13, and 14. Now, this is a three-part story arc where it's really more of us kind of learning more about Emplate, the first enemy you had our young heroes go up against, but also kind of learning more about other characters as well when it comes to Generation X. Now, on top of that, this storyline kind of brings up another part in the long mystery when it comes to a set of characters who will play major roles in later storylines down the road when it comes to our coverage over Generation X. And so as we get into the opening pages for issue number 12, we're really picking up with the character Emplate. Now, for Emplate, we're seeing him traveling through this dimension. Now, we're not really told anything about this dimension at all, which unfortunately kind of sucks because it does look very interesting. But once he does make it back, you do have his assistant there ready to help him, DOA. Now, here's the thing, because you have DOA bring up the fact that for Emplate, he used to be able to travel deep into that dimension when he had Penis around. And let me explain. You see, for Emplate, he feeds off other mutants, but they're genetics that come off their bone marrows. When he had Penis around, being able to feed off of her allowed him to travel deep into that other dimension. But she's gone now. She's with Generation X. But for DOA, he tells his boss like, hey, listen, I think everything is now ready for us to finally go after the team and get the person that you want back. And of course, that would be Penis. But getting over to our young heroes, we see our young heroes arriving into the city. Now, this is Banshee allowing our young heroes some free time before they meet up for the opera. Now, I want to shift our focus on Skin and also Chambers. And here's the reason why. Because for Chambers, he's meeting up with one of his ex-lovers. But also for Chambers, he's madly in love with Paige, better known as Husk. And so the dude is kind of stuck in the middle with what he should do because he wants to be with Paige, but he also wants to go see this old lover of his and kind of work things out between them. Now, his old lover does play a very important role in the storyline, and she is a character we saw in the early parts of our coverage over Generation X. Now, once you do have Skin drop off Chamber at the restaurant, you then have him get knocked out from behind by somebody else. And so this is Emplate now beginning to take out the different members of our heroes. But before we're able to see the rest of the heroes get knocked out, I want to shift our focus over to Banshee and also Monet. Here's the reason why, because for Banshee, kind of realized that Monet is going through a lot. And technically, we have seen that in the earlier parts of our coverage over this team, because here's the reason why. Every once in a while, you have her just freeze in place where she's unable to move, unable to speak, and then out of nowhere she goes back to normal. But it's also Banshee kind of realizing that this young girl has a very troubled past when it comes to her family. The problem is that not a lot of people know much about her family, like what happened to them. And so it's Banshee wanting to dive into her past to get a better idea of his student. But that freaks her out and it makes her run away. Now, back at the school for our young heroes, Emma Frost and Penis are still there. Now, for Emma Frost, it's her goal to kind of trick Penis to allow her guard down so that Emma Frost can then dive into the mind of Penis. Because for Penis, with her hard skin and also the way her mind's working at the moment, no one has truly been able to kind of figure out who she is, but to get into her mind and learn more about her. And so once Emma Frost kind of tricked her to allow her guard to be down and get into her mind, she sees all these different images. Now, we're not going to learn everything about this character here, but it's kind of like, okay, she seems to have a very troubled past, but the question is now, what is her actual past. But then out of nowhere, you have Emplate take out Emma Frost, and he grabs Penance because Emma did knock out Penance earlier before he had arrived. Now, for the rest of the team, they're also being taken out by different people who are working with Emplate. And we do learn more about these characters and why they're kind of working for Emplate here. But you do have them go after the 4 other members of the team. So Jubilee, Mondo, Paige, which is Husk, and also Sync. So just like that, the entire team is taken out, leaving behind Chambers. Now, as we transition over to Chambers, we do see him meeting up with Gail Egerton. Now, we met Gail in the earlier parts of our coverage over this team. And the thing is, she is the past girlfriend to Chamber. Here's the thing, because when his powers had first manifested, well, unfortunately, she was there. And when his powers did manifest, it left her paralyzed from the waist down. Now, when she woke up from her coma, well, homeboy left her behind. And so ever since then, she always kind of hated him because he did not stay there to at least take care of her. It really did bother her a lot. Now, for Emplate, what he did was he gave her his ability to be basically used against Chamber to knock him out. And so when she does arrive at the restaurant, of course, his guard is down because he sees the woman he used to care for, he wants to be with. But either way, once she does get close enough, she does use the power that Emplate gave her to take him out just like that. But as we transition back over to Monet, as she goes in the backyard of the school, she realized that all her entire team has been, well, taken hostage by Emplate. But here's the thing though, guys, because you did have Emplate kind of say that he is the brother to Monet. And this was a huge moment back then in the 1990s for X-Men comics. Now, here's the thing, because one of the members of Generation X is not there, and that character will become be very important for the next storyline we cover in the next video. Now, with this whole revelation that Emplate is the older brother to Monet, we also learn that apparently this whole road he taken becoming this villain-like character is all because of what happened to their mother. Now, we're not technically told what happened to their mother, but we get the idea that apparently he might be the reason why she's injured or most likely no longer around. Now, their father, he tried his best to help out all his children. So we're getting the idea that there's other siblings out there, but for right now, all we know is these 2 characters who are the siblings to one another. But apparently for Emplate, he does not like his father at all. There's a whole lot of hatred towards that man right there. Now, while you have the 2 characters go back and forth with one another, we also see Gail kind of get upset. And here's the reason why, because she wants Chamber. Emplate promised her that if she does help out, then yeah, he'll hand Chamber over to her. But the problem is for Emplate, he wants to feed off the bone marrows of all the different members of Generation X. And so he's kind of like, yeah, I did tell you that, but like, technically, I was lying. Now, while he was having that conversation with her, you have DOA inform his boss that, hey, listen, boss, your sister was able to escape. And for Emplate, that's a problem. He wants his sister back here now. Now, for Monet, she's really smart. Like, she knows that technically her best move to make at this moment is to get help, like from the X-Men or at least X-Force. But the problem is that the communication room is no longer an available option for her. She has to find a different option to call out for help. But the problem is that while trying to reach that second option, she's then being attacked by one of the members of Emplate's crew, and that'll be Bulwark. And I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, he's not really an important character at all. As a matter of fact, he dies in the early 2000s in a Weapon X comic. But either way, for Bulwark, he's working for Emplate. So his main goal is to capture Monet, which he is able to kind of fight back against him. But while that's all happening, I want to shift our focus over to Jubilee. Here's the reason why, because you have Jubilee begin to talk some mad smack towards Emplate. Now, her main goal is to really upset him. Here's the reason why, because for Emplate, he's going around and already absorbing different members of Generation X bone marrows. Now, when he does that, he also gained their abilities as well. And that last part is very important. And so for Jubilee, she's trying her best to make him very upset. And for the rest of the team, they're kind of like, what are you doing? Are you really trying to, make him angry and kill you off right here and now before we are able to make a game plan to escape? Now, for Monet, she's still fighting against her opponent, but luckily for her, there are still two members of the team that were not captured, and that would be Artie and also Leech. Now, for Leech, he has the ability to take away other mutant abilities away. And so for Bulwark, he lost his abilities just like that, allowing Artie and also Leech kind of get a jump on him, but it also kind of scared him away as well. Now, to close on the second chapter of this storyline, getting back over to Monet, Monet is then confronted by another member of, Emplates' crew. It now be Vicente. I want to say Vicente. Either way, this is a character we actually met first in Age of Apocalypse. And so this is first appearance in the main Marvel universe, but after that event right there. Now, luckily for Monet, help did arrive just in time. And that help is no other than Bishop himself. And of course, the dude brought one heck of a gun to use against his opponents. Now, as we get into the final chapter, we're really picking up with the idea of Jubilee just continuing to be a jerk towards Emplate, but she does have an end goal here. But you see her just going on and on, calling him different names. Now, for Emplate, he's trying his best to ignore her, but also kind of like not let what she's saying about him get to him. Now, for the rest of the team, they're still continuing to wonder, like, okay, has Jubilee lost her mind because the dude will kill her and then kill us? Then we're all screwed. Like, what is she up to? What kind of plan does she have up her sleeve? And this kind of leads us into the quick ending for this storyline, because while you do have Bishop arrive to help out Monet, you do have Bishop being able to take on a few other members of Emplate's crew. Now, here's the thing, because for Bishop, the only reason why he's here right now because the security system went down for the school, which of course alerted the other school where the X-Men are at. And so for Bishop, he's kind of like, hey, I came here at the right time. And so you do have Bishop being able to fight against a few members of Emplate's crew. But getting over to Jubilee's plan, we learn here that for Jubilee, when it comes to her ability, she's not really able to control it when she's angry. That right there is very important, because for Emplate, the same thing goes for him. He's not really able to control her ability when he's using it because he's angry at her. And so, of course, it does cause small explosions in this area, allowing our heroes to be free, but to also injure him as well. Now, for Emplate, he does grab Penance and tries to get away. Now, when they do disappear, our heroes kind of wondering why Penance did not fight back against him. She went willingly. And for Banshee, he's kind of like, well, she's been with him for a good amount of years. And so most likely she does not have the will to continue to fight against someone like him. Now, for Emplate, he does go after, his sister, which is Monet. But while trying to go after her, you do have Bishop try to help her out by fighting against Emplate. Now, luckily for Bishop, he does have some backup, and that would be Penance. Now, while you have Penance being able to damage Emplate, you didn't have Penance turn over to Monet. This is really important right here, because she kind of says to us that she's at fault for what happened to Penance, what happened to her brother Emplate in some kind of way. But also she believes if Penance goes ahead and kills off Monet, it will pay for everything that she has done to her, but also to Emplate. But she also kind of tells us that Penance is the sister to both Emplate, and also Monet. So all three characters are technically siblings. But for Penance, once she says our brother, Penance kind of freaks out and she runs away. Now, this kind of leads us into the ending of the storyline because you do have Emplate get very upset about the fact that Penance, who's now his sister supposedly, had just betrayed him because she just attacked him. The first time, he forgave her when she left him because Generation X took her away from him. But now seeing her attacking him, it really does bother him. And so you do have him kind of freak out and disappear. But after that, you have Banshee bring up the fact that Sync has not been there the entire time when it came to Emplate capturing the different members of the team. Like, yes, he did grab Sync, but he put Sync somewhere else. And so this kind of leads into the ending of the storyline. Let me explain. You see, for Emplate, he's kind of like a vampire. But when it comes to Emplate, once he's able to have a small portion of your power, your bone marrow, it then allows him to kind of have a small control over your mind. But here's the problem. You also gain his personality as well. And so for Sync, he's back in St. Louis, his hometown, but with the mindset of Emplate. And for Emplate, he does not like family at all. And so for Sync, he's kind of like bone marrow hungry like Emplate is, but also kind of like targeting his family, which means back in St. Louis, Sync is about to go on a rampage in that city. With that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.